I'm Blake Fontenay. I'm a columnist for TCPalm, and I'd like to welcome you to our endorsement interviews with candidates for the District 4 seat on the Martin County Commission. I'm joined by fellow editorial board members Larry Reisman and Ed Killer, who are both columnists for TCPalm, and our editor, Adam Neal. And the candidates for this seat are Sarah Hurd and Doug Mustapik. And thank you both for joining us. We're going to conduct an interview. We will alternate. Typically, we will ask the same question of both candidates, and we will invert the order of who answers first. There may be some follow ups or questions that are directed specifically to one candidate or the other, but that will generally be our format. The interview process should last about 45 minutes, and it will be available for the public to view online through TCPalm. It should be available along with other similar interviews that we're doing at tcpalm.com/elections. So we will begin our session, and I hope that we can get a good back and forth on some of these issues. Let's start with Sarah. Question that we have. The county commission made a decision recently to promote a new county administrator from within the ranks of county government. Please explain why you made that decision as opposed to conducting a national search for a new candidate.
I think that in this case, we are very fortunate to be able to succession plan. Don Donaldson started out in the county being the county engineer, moved on to an assistant administrator position, proved his worth to us in that position. And he was, for me, was the natural heir to the county administrator position.
Thank you. Doug, do you agree with the way the county commission handled that decision? Should they have conducted a national search, or do you think it was appropriate to promote from within in this case?
Having currently managing two businesses myself and having job postings out from $20 an hour all the way up to a position for $150 an hour, it's very difficult to hire right now. And so I do recognize the value of the cultural fit when you have someone who's worked as long as Don Donaldson has, to then continue that promotion level. I do think it would be appropriate to at least have posted and see who else was on there, even if he was the favored. I do like just a little bit more of a even playing field, because I do believe that competitive spirit keeps people who have been there for a while continuing to be competitive.
Thank you. And Doug, we will start with you on this next question. Another recent decision the county commission made was to not hold a referendum on a sales tax increase that could have raised money to purchase environmentally sensitive lands. Do you feel like that was a good decision to hold off on holding the referendum now?
I do. Again, kind of in going back to the reference of hiring, right? We're currently at a time of 9% inflation. And so I value the voter's voice, but one of the benefits of being active in the community, volunteering at many causes, is that you recognize that people come from a wide variety of means here in Martin County. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running, because I'm fear that that's slipping away. And so it's something that we definitely need to ensure we're paying attention to.
Thank you. And Sarah, tell me a little bit about that decision. Why did the county commission decide not to hold the referendum?
I was disappointed. I know that Martin County residents absolutely treasure our conservation lands, our natural lands, our western lands, and mostly they do it in order to improve water quality. That's one of the most important issues here in Martin County, always will be. And that's how you improve water quality, in part, is acquiring lands, restoring them, and therefore restoring the health of the rivers. However, I do understand that the inflationary times now are cautionary to us, and I certainly understand the commission's decision to postpone or put off or to not hold the referendum. It was the right decision.
Okay, let me start with you, Sarah, and I'll ask a follow up on that question. If 4 years from now or 2 years from now the economy is better, would you support taking that issue to the voters?
Absolutely. And I would always put it in the hands of the voters.
Okay. Thank you. Doug, same question. If we had a different economy in a couple of years, how would you feel about moving forward with the referendum on that?
Personally, when I see it on the ballot, I'd be voting no, because I don't believe in raising taxes. Again, there's people of a wide variety of means here in Martin County. However, I do believe that the voters need to have a voice, and so should the economy be going through the roof. And the question is, should the voter weigh in on something? I believe that the voter's voice is very important.
Thank you. Okay, Doug, we will stick with you for the next question as well. When, if ever, do you feel like it's appropriate to impose restrictions like lockdowns or mask mandates to slow the spread of a communicable disease?
One of the things that I learned in the Marine Corps is that groups of people, including individuals, will do what they can to take care of themselves and their families. One of the biggest tragedies of the past through the COVID experience, especially for businesses, was witnessing companies like Walmart, Target remain open, and yet we couldn't have mom and pop businesses or stay open. It made no sense. I really appreciated seeing foreign countries to where if you were sick, stay home. If you were concerned or health compromised, stay home. One of the other benefits of COVID is that a number of services have now come about to where it is possible to have groceries dropped off at your front door. It is possible to have a much more touch-free experience in life now. And so I do believe that we do not need mask mandates, and I do not believe in imposing on the freedoms of our people.
Okay, I want to jump to Sarah on that question to get her answer, but let me ask you a follow-up that I had asked in our previous session. We've talked about this thinking back on the last couple of years dealing with COVID, but would the situation be any different? Would your answer be any different, Doug, if we were dealing with a disease that were more lethal, that had a death rate of, say, 50% instead of, whatever COVID's mortality rate was?
Sure. One of the things in the Marine Corps, again, was experiencing leadership through confusion, right? And so I believe that the CDC, I hope that they would be much more clear at a future pandemic where we have a higher death rate, and that we would be able to drive forward with better decisions at that point, right? I do still think that, the Florida way of life is one of the best places that you can be, right? We have the outdoors, we have our beaches. Those are places that inspire, natural immunity. And I think that's incredibly important to remember.
Thank you. And Sarah, same question. When, if ever, do you feel like it's appropriate to impose restrictions like lockdowns or mask mandates to slow the spread of communicable diseases?
You have to remember that, particularly at the beginning of of COVID, we knew so little. So we were experimenting with how to keep our residents as safe as we possibly could. You also have to bear in mind that in Martin County is not a chartered county. We are an unchartered county, which means that we derive our government from the state government. So the state government has jurisdiction in Martin County that we can't overcome. So our abilities to do lockdown were limited. And are still limited. The state, as long as we're an unchartered county, the state's decision about lockdowns, quarantines, that's the final decision. And always going back to your question about what if it's a far more lethal disease, you do everything that you can within the limits of the law, within the limits of your jurisdiction, to protect your residents as best you can.
Okay. Thank you very much. Sarah, let me start with you on the next question. What standards would you use to determine when the county's comprehensive plan should be amended?
Well, I'm familiar with the comprehensive plan. I've read it front to back. I've been around for all of the revisions, and at present, I think that the comprehensive plan is a invaluable, legally enforceable planning document, and I don't see any imminent need to revise it or amend it.
Thank you. Doug, same question. What standards would you use to determine when the comprehensive plan should be amended?
Very similarly, it comes down to a quality of life. When our small town feel has begun to be eroded, which some people are very concerned about, right? We have our current county commission that is throwing their hands up, saying the city just continues to annex, and we don't form a good partnership there, which is very important to me, that we have a better vision for that partnership. What does Martin County look like with the city of Stewart included, with Indiantown? Right. And so going back to the comp plan, I believe that it's at the right course, right? I think that we need to continue that course as well.
Okay, thank you. And Doug, I'll start with you. That sort of leads into a follow-up. What area of cooperation do you think could be improved between the cities and the county?
Going back to that vision that I mentioned, we in the county commission meetings that I've sat through, and it continues to be citizens coming forward from the county, frustrated, maybe not having a full understanding that there is the boundary of the city, and the annexation does allow them to bring a property from the county into the city, but it doesn't change the fact that we need that better partnership. We need to have a conversation with our city commissioners to say, hey, you're putting that there. We might have a better opportunity, let's say, to put it elsewhere. And that skyline, if you will, doesn't become like we're starting to see it.
Okay. Thank you. Sarah, are there areas in which the county and the cities could improve their relations? And if so, what are they?
Sure. Well, dialogue, honest dialogue is always welcome. And we have regular meetings with the city and with Indiantown and with the school board. And those are opportunities to have meaningful discussions. Most often the discussions are perfunctory and they're not very productive. In the city and in the county, particularly in the last several years, and the city doesn't ask the county's permission to volunteer to annex county property into the city. If there's adjacent property and there are willing residents of Martin County to be annexed, then the city can annex without our permission. We don't have jurisdiction. And I also am always mindful that the city has its own comprehensive plan and its own elected representatives, and we need to allow the city to govern inside the city by the elected officials who the voters have elected, and we need to stay in our lane in the county. So I would never substitute my judgment for that of the city commissioners. They're elected to represent the city.
Okay. Thank you. And I will go back to you, Sarah. And I know this is a somewhat related question from the one I asked a minute ago, But when, if ever, do you feel it's appropriate to expand the urban services boundary in the county?
The current comprehensive plan does have a provision for expanding the boundary when there's no longer sufficient capacity in the county for 15 years. Then the county must begin planning for future expansion of the urban service boundary, and we do that, I think, by first of all looking at the land. Looking at the land that's adjacent to the primary urban service boundary, and trying to find that which is most suitable for urban development. And by that I mean, if there's a huge wetlands in a large swath of wetlands adjacent to the primary urban service boundary, it's probably not the best place to expand the urban service boundary, because we don't allow any impacts to wetlands. So there are a number of factors to consider. They're all fact driven in order to determine when, where, and why to expand the urban service boundary.
Thank you. Doug, same question. When, if ever, do you feel it's appropriate to expand the urban service boundary?
At the same exact time frame. At the end of the day, the Martin County feel is that we have a large amount of environmental land. 48%, I think, is what's owned from a mix of government entities. And I think that is what creates that difference here, at least one of the factors, veterans being another. But I think it's important that we educate the population continually, right? In the past, we've seen that is not the case. We've talked about that any, form of changes are wide sweeping changes. And so I think it's incredibly important that we be very clear about the purpose of the comp plan, and that we have a very defined process from start to finish to encourage community involvement. I think the majority of things that I hear frustrated people at the commission talking about is the fact that they don't have an awareness of when the project is starting. So
thank you. And Doug, I'll start with you on this next question. Should there be limits on the number of times that a developer or a landowner can request a delay on a land use case?
So for me, I think it depends, right? If it's something to where they're trying to get more community involvement, right? It's, hey, we haven't had that many people show up. We recognize this could be a community impact. We want to extend for the purpose of communication and transparency. I think that would be a very important caveat to allow that. In other cases, though, where there's not clarity, it's just the extension because they think in a future time a decision will be better. No, I do not believe that should be allowed.
Thank you. Sarah, same question for you. Should there be limits?
Definitely, there should be. We have deadlines in order to plan, and we plan in order to save dollars. So if a developer is allowed to extend and extend and extend and extend, then we never can carefully plan. We don't have a logical, predictable pattern to plan for growth. So yes, it's a very good idea. It's a good planning tool to limit the amount of applications that a developer can make.
Thank you. Thank you. And Sarah, I will stay with you for the next question. What, if anything, should the county be doing to encourage more affordable housing?
We sometimes surplus land to Habitat for Humanity, and that's a great idea. We could do inclusionary zoning with developers, and that's probably something that we should consider. I'm not in favor of building affordable housing. I don't think that it's the responsibility for taxpayers to subsidize other taxpayers. I recognize that the market is difficult now for affordable housing, but that's the market, and I don't think that that's the responsibility of local government, local taxpayers, to solve that problem. It's not a problem that local taxpayers can solve.
Okay. Thank you. And Doug, same question for you. what, if anything, should the county be doing to encourage the creation of affordable housing?
Again, there are people of a wide variety of means here in Martin County, and it is the market. We have a crazy influx of people moving from other states into Florida, and so for me, I do not believe that it is the government's responsibility again to be creating affordable housing. I believe that the goal of government is to be as small as possible and efficient as possible so that money goes back to the taxpayer. One program that I'd be very interested in seeing, though, is a problem that I've heard of when talking to people is the fact that there are so many applicants at apartment homes or for a piece of property that they're filling out applications, 8, 9 of them at $100 to $150 per application fee, and yet there's no law or regulation that limits that individual company from taking the application and charging, even though there is, they might not be able to actually be in there within a year, right? And so some form of control there, I think, makes a lot of sense, especially in this time.
Okay, thank you. And I will stick with you for this next question as well. What, if anything, should the county do to encourage more economic development?
I think that encouraging first off, how we help our current businesses. I think that's the most important thing. When people talk about bringing in jobs, the fear that I have is that they talk about bringing in a giant company, right? And then the impact is huge. That's not what we want. What we want is our businesses doing better and then remote work from those giant companies to where there is no impact on our land, but people are still getting highly skilled, high paid work from home positions. That's not only bettering our community, but also putting more money into our local economy to then further help those businesses that we have here.
Okay. Well, that brings to mind a quick follow-up, Doug. How do you encourage more of those types of jobs in Martin County? How do you encourage work from home jobs?
Sure. So one of the coolest experiences that I had in the Marines was when I was deployed to Afghanistan. I learned that it was free to send mail. And so I wrote the entire Fortune 500 CEO list asking for leadership advice and books. I'd be happy to share the letters if you'd like to see them. But 120 CEOs wrote me back. And so utilizing the connections gained through that, as well as the heads of HR and reaching out to those senior level officials saying, hey, we need a partnership between our education platforms and then also you all to start driving a pipeline of what does it look like for Martin County to fill those positions down the road. And there's multiple benefits that we can sell those companies on for Martin County, not to come here, right? But to say that your employees that you're now giving these jobs to live in a place that has a lot of nature that surrounds it, has a lower amount of stress and a good pace that provides a higher level of efficiency for the work that's produced.
Thank you. Sarah, let me go to you on that. How do you feel about work from home jobs? Is there a need for more of them in Martin County? And if so, how can county government encourage them?
Again, I don't think that it's the responsibility of local government to try to demand how people work in the marketplace, whether they work from home or work at their job site. I do know that one of the most important things that we can do in order to spur economic development here is to provide an unparalleled quality of life here and to keep taxes low here. The county annually spends $450,000 to subsidize the Business Development Board. That was a decision that was made some years ago. I felt at the time and still believe that probably the most effective way, if we're going to meddle in economic development, is for that role to have been taken in-house. Maybe we should have made it a Martin County department if we're serious about undertaking economic development.
Thank you. Sarah, I'll start with you on this next question. And after this, I'm going to open it up to the other editorial board members. But tell me, Sarah, what does the term the Martin County difference mean to you?
Um, we have in Martin County, we have a history. We have 40 years of following the comprehensive plan, and the comprehensive plan is a legally enforceable planning document that that has all kinds of regulations in it, but it plans our future. It says that we don't impact wetlands. It says that we will clean up our water. It maintains a 4-story height limit. All of these things that make Martin County so different from any other county in Florida. It's critically important to maintain those laws that protect the residents and the resources of Martin County. That's the Martin County difference.
Thank you. Doug, what does the term the Martin County difference mean to you?
In my studies, I learned that for every 10 citizens in Martin County, one is a veteran. I believe that combined with our families and the beautiful place that we live, make Martin County different than anywhere else here in Florida.
Thank you. Let me turn to the other members of the editorial board. Larry, do you have any questions at this point?
I do, yeah. We'll start with Doug on this. And in your questionnaire, you talked about wanting to lower taxes. Can you talk about specifically how you would lower taxes, and would you pledge to hit the rollback rate, for example, in your first year in office?
I appreciate the question. How would I go about lowering taxes? So when I got back from Afghanistan after getting all those letters, I felt empowered. And so I learned that there was a process improvement department in the Marine Corps. And so I transitioned into that department and doing a business case analysis between the Yuma, Arizona base and Miramar, San Diego base on our hazardous material purchasing. We found a way to utilize cost avoidance. And so, cost savings. And so we saved the Marine Corps $2.5 million within an 8-month period. And when we look at some of the things that are occurring inside of the county, right, it makes me wonder how we went from a 3,000 square foot, golf club to a country club that we have now that is drastically over budget. And yet I don't ever remember there being an approval for those changes. And so some of those projects that just seem to continue to go outside the scope of where they should be, Sailfish Splash and the restaurants as well. It makes you wonder if my opponent's supposed to be lowering taxes, why do we have so many subsidies across the county? And so that's definitely an area where I would be lowering taxes.
Thank you, Sarah. In terms of cost cutting or cost control, what have you done as a commissioner over the years to do that, and what could anything else be done?
I've examined our budgets over the last 20 and 30 years. And I've also examined our population growth over the same period of time. And over that period of time, the growth rate and and taxes have stayed within a percent and a half of each other. So that tells me that in general, our taxes are the proper millage, around the proper millage. Also, people in Martin County are extremely proud of our quality of life. They want to have the best fire rescue service, the best sheriff's department, the best park system, the best roads, the best schools. We feel very, very fortunate to have these really, really high quality services. And Martin County residents want those services, and they want them at those levels of service.
Thank you. Sarah, question for you first. The county settled its lawsuit with Brightline, and Brightline's been moving along, laying all sorts of tracks, and they're it looks like they're getting ready to start here in the not too distant future. So what's being done by the county, or what can you ensure will be done to make sure that Brightline is a safe, that Brightline's doing what it's saying it's doing in this settlement?
There's a settlement. It's legally enforceable, so Brightline has to honor the terms of the settlement. So we will make sure that they do. I'm sure that lots of residents have been impacted by the railroad crossing improvements in the last couple of months. Well, they're just about to get much worse because they're going to start on July 12th, making the improvements at the the Monterey Road intersection, which will last for, they're saying 2 weeks. Hopefully that's all it will be. The biggest concern right now is that for me about Brightline is speed, and also the Roosevelt Bridge. We had a presentation last week by Brightline representatives, and they said that they're going to, first of all, attempt to rehabilitate the railroad bridge, and there are no promises to replace it. The bridge is 100 years old. It's obviously inadequate for the amount of rail traffic that's going to be passing over it. So those are my biggest concerns right now. I think that the intersection improvements that are mandated by the settlement will indeed be completed, and then we just have to worry about the safety in Martin County.
Doug?
I have with the settlement is the fact that we didn't get the fair and equitable time. I'm very concerned, talking with friends who live in North River Shores, that there's going to be a dramatic impact to property values, and more importantly to voter safety. And so, I'm concerned from that approach. I think that there's a shift in the public a little bit from the Brightline, no one wanting it, to now, okay, it's here. Will we receive any benefit from the bridge being down? Right? Where is that station going to go? So I'm very interested to see that play out.
Back to you, Blake, or Adam, or Ed.
Yeah, I wanted to give Adam or Ed a chance to jump in here too, if they've got questions they want to ask.
I've got no questions, Blake. Thanks.
Okay.
No,
All right. All right. Let me hit you all with a couple of additional questions then. Doug, let's start with you this time. What steps can county government take to further reduce pollution in the St. Lucie River and other local waterways?
Speeding up septic to sewer. One of the things that I'm shocked about is that it took 20 years for us to make these leaps and bounds from septic to sewer. Why didn't it happen 5 years ago, 10 years ago? That would have done a lot more. And so continuing to encourage that production. I think the next thing that we've got to pay attention to is furthering along our drainage, right? Not just septic to sewer, but this runoff is running straight into our waterways, and that's also a huge concern, right? And lastly, continuing to fight for zero discharges is incredibly important. I believe that is what's going to cause the difference for our rivers.
Thank you. Sarah, same question. What additional steps could the county be taking to reduce pollution in local waterways?
Certainly our septic to sewer program is robust. We are converting thousands of homes from septic to sewer each year, making a huge investment in the health of our waterways. When I took office in 2002, the commissioners were completely ignoring the deteriorating conditions of our navigable waterways, and I championed Everglades restoration. Our portion of it is the Indian River Lagoon South plan, and because of my efforts, the Indian River Lagoon South plan became one of the very first Everglades restoration projects ever authorized into federal law. Since that time, the state and the federal government have poured hundreds of millions of dollars into cleaning up our rivers. We're making progress. We're making huge progress. The Army Corps budget for Indian River Lagoon South this year alone is $455 million. That's how hard I've been working in order to help clean up the rivers here, and we're doing a creditable job.
Thank you. And Sarah, let me start with you on this question. Describe one ethical dilemma you have faced during your life and how you were able to resolve it.
Well, I'm naturally drawn to public service about questions that I might have had about ethics, and there haven't been any. I always know that I am the representing the public's interest, and therefore I have to act ethically and honestly at all times.
Okay. Thank you. How about you, Doug? One ethical dilemma you faced in life and how you were able to resolve it.
Sure. I guess I'll give you a real one and then a hypothetical. In the Marine Corps, for me, going through the process improvement process, I went from a team of 4 to a team of 11,000. And so I learned the difference between defending the individual, but also recognizing the value of the group, ensuring that we're taking care of everyone, everyone has their voice, but also keeping that big picture in mind. Hypothetically speaking, I think that if I were to ever, God forbid, have to be defended by our county attorneys, I don't think I would have the taxpayers pay that bill. And so from an ethical dilemma from my opponent's position, I find it a little odd that she's never really had one when taxpayers paid about $250,000 for her defense.
Okay. Thank you. And we're going to start to wrap things up. I'd like to give each of you an opportunity to make a closing statement and provide any final thoughts you wish for the editorial board or the people watching this broadcast to know about you and your campaign. And so, Doug, let's start with you there.
Sure. Hey, everyone. As you know, my name is Doug Mustapig. I was born and raised here in Tequesta. I served our country in the United States Marine, and I'm grateful and proud to have returned here to Martin County, which is not something that everyone can afford to do right now. Martin County is going through a very dynamic time right now, and I believe that we need leaders that listen, that are active in the community, and don't do things like impose a half-cent environment tax. And so with your support, I'm incredibly excited to earn the opportunity to be Martin County's next county commissioner for District 4. To learn more about my backstory, you can find me on Facebook through Pick Mustapik, and then you can also go to my website at pickmustapik.com. I am, again, incredibly proud to run on a platform of lower taxes, committing that I will not be in this office for more than 20 years. Or excuse me, for more than 12 years, which is a lot more than my opponent can say. And so thank you again for having me on this show. Blake, Lawrence, Ed, and Adam, thank you all for setting this up.
Thank you. And Sarah, closing statement?
Thank you. I've lived in Martin County for 34 years. For 20 years, I've served as the District 4 commissioner. I have served predictably, honestly, reliably, continuously. I've been an advocate for clean water and for managing growth and for keeping taxes low and protecting our comprehensive plan. And I would hope to continue to have your support. Every one of my campaigns has been a grassroots campaign. Every one of my contributions for each of my elections has come from Martin County residents or members of my immediate family. So I ask for your support and thank you for the privilege to serve.
Okay. Thank you to both of the candidates. And we will take this information as an editorial board, and we will be deliberating privately and potentially making a recommendation to voters. Of course, voters have the final decision as to who will serve in this office the next 4 years. And we encourage them to view this broadcast and consider other research before they make a decision. And we do encourage people to go out the polls and vote in August and also then in the November elections. So thank you all, and we will talk to you later.